so we know what the problem is. Now unfortunately on this engine and this problem, the only repair is to replace the intake. So like I said, in order to make this repair, the intake has got to come off. So we've got it all loosened. Takes about 30-40 minutes. And we're going to take the intake off and set it over here. So this is the intake we replaced, and here's the new one. When you order an intake, it comes with lots of pieces on it. As you can see, it's a complete intake. Now when we turn this over, you'll see that there's a sealed panel on this. So when we turn this one over, it has the same sealed panel. Now basically underneath this panel, if you're familiar with intake manifold runner controls, that's basically what's under here. This is actually glued down and bolted down. We've taken the bolts out, and you actually have to pry up pretty hard to break the seal from the glue, but it is going to be glued down. Okay, so inside here you can see that we've got intake manifold runner controls, and when I move this vacuum valve, you can see that it's moving them. Now our problem is, on this first intake manifold runner, the shaft goes through the body, and you can see that there's a seal there. Right down in there is a seal. So as we open and close this, it is supposed to pivot. Well, that seal goes right through the body, and it is glued in place, so it's not replaceable. So you can see our seal right there, leaking air, is letting outside unmetered air directly into the intake. Half of it is on the top side of this valve, and the other half is on the bottom. But either way, it's going to let unmetered air directly into the intake. So again, there's where our seal goes through the body. So as we go around, and you can see this pivot moving. So I'm going to take my tin bolt off, take this off again. That is way too much play. Now the seal on the new one, you can see, is glued in place. Now I'm not going to take it off because I don't want to disturb it. But because of that seal goes right through the body, we have to replace the old intake. And as you can see on this new intake, it is definitely sealed down and glued down. Now I wish, and I'm sure the customer did as well, that there was an easier fix for this. But because of that shaft seal, there's only one repair, and that's to replace the whole intake. There's no way to get another seal in there and actually seal it so that it won't leak air. One thing to note, when you do get a new intake, if you'll notice, you're going to have two new vacuum motors, a solenoid, and this check valve, and all the vacuum lines. They're going to actually come with the new intake. Now we had a bad seal right here, but by replacing the intake, you can see that you're actually going to be able to replace this seal as well. If that one was leaking or worn, since it's a vacuum motor seal and there's an intake manifold runner in there just as well, by getting a new intake, we're going to be replacing them both. Now here's our lap scope graphs again after the repair. As you can see, our top lines left and right, which are the oxygen sensors, they're switching normally in full range. Now the middle is the long term, and on the left, I know it's a little bit hard to see the numbers, but the left, which is bank 1, is reading 4, and the right is reading 0. And then the bottom is our short term. The bottom numbers are on the left are switching between 0 and 2, and so are the right. So we have a 10% acceptable level of adjustment before check engine light would set, and we're maintaining that very well now after our repair.